When Susan Mitchell opened her front door that morning, she wasn't expecting anything extraordinary. She was 59, recently retired from her job as a school secretary in Dallas, and her days had settled into a comfortable, if uneventful, routine. The sun was shining gently through the oak trees that lined her quiet suburban street, and she'd just finished watering her small garden when the doorbell rang. At first, she didn't even hear it over the chirping birds, but then came the second ring. Louder, more urgent. She opened the door to find a young man in a red polo shirt and black cap standing awkwardly on her porch. He looked no older than 20, maybe even younger, with wide brown eyes and curly dark hair that poked out beneath his cap. "Good morning, ma'am. Delivery for Susan Mitchell?" he asked, holding out a small brown box. Susan blinked. "That's me, but I didn't order anything." "It says here from J&L Floral and Gifts," he replied, glancing at a sticker on the box. "Maybe a gift?" Her heart gave a little flutter. For a second, she thought maybe it was from her daughter in Chicago. Maybe Lauren had sent her a birthday surprise, but her birthday wasn't for another 2 months. "Well, thank you," she said, still puzzled as she took the package. The young man nodded and turned to leave, but something about him made her pause. "Wait," she said. "Do you mind if I open this real quick? Just want to be sure it's not a mistake." He turned back, smiling politely. "Sure, no problem." She brought the box to the small bench by her front door and began to peel the tape. Inside was a small bouquet of artificial sunflowers and a simple white card that read, "For when you feel forgotten, you're not. Someone cares." Her breath caught. The handwriting was unfamiliar, and there was no name. Just the message. The young man noticed her stunned expression. "Everything okay?" Susan looked up, tears suddenly prickling her eyes. I'm sorry. This is just unexpected." He shifted his weight. "Sometimes people like to stay anonymous. I deliver a lot of little things like this, some with big meaning behind them. You'd be surprised." She studied him more closely now. There was a sincerity in his eyes that tugged at her. "What's your name, young man?" "Eli. Eli Carter." "Well, Eli, thank you. Even if you didn't send this, you've brought something meaningful today." He smiled again, a little more genuinely this time. "Glad I could help, ma'am. Take care." As he walked off, Susan stood there, staring at the card. She hadn't realized how lonely she had felt lately. Retirement had created a silence in her life she didn't anticipate. Her days were quieter, her phone rang less often, and even trips to the grocery store felt like small adventures now. The gift, anonymous or not, made her feel seen. That evening, she called her daughter just to check in, but Lauren hadn't sent the gift. Neither had her old coworkers nor her church group. It remained a mystery. 2 days later, the doorbell rang again. Susan opened the door to find Eli once more. He smiled sheepishly. "Hey again. Got another one for you." "Another one?" she asked, taking the box. "Yup. Same sender, still no name. Just says it's for Susan Mitchell." Inside this time was a single ceramic mug with the words, "You matter more than you know," painted in soft blue letters. There was no card, no additional note. Susan's mind raced. Was someone watching her? Was this some elaborate prank? But her instincts said otherwise. This felt intentional, personal, kind. "You know," she said slowly, "you must see all sorts of things in your job." Eli laughed. "You wouldn't believe it. Some days it's boring, some days it's weird, and sometimes I get to see something really sweet like this." Susan looked down at the mug. "Do you think this kind of thing happens often?" He shook his head. "Not really. People don't usually send kindness anonymously. Most folks want credit." That made her chuckle. "You're wise beyond your years, Eli." He shrugged. "Maybe. I just pay attention, I guess." Over the next 3 weeks, Susan received 4 more small gifts. A hand-knit scarf in a soft lavender shade, a tiny book titled Little Acts of Courage, a wooden keychain shaped like a heart, and a framed quote that read, "One person can make a difference." Each time it was Eli delivering. By the 5th delivery, they no longer exchanged just polite greetings. They spoke on the porch, shared iced tea, and talked about life. She learned he was 19, working 2 part-time jobs to save up for community college. He lived with his grandmother, who had raised him after his parents passed in a car accident when he was 10. He liked sketching in his spare time and dreamed of studying art. Susan found herself looking forward to his visits, not just for the mystery gift, but for the warmth he brought. One particularly warm Friday, Eli showed up again, but this time without a package. She opened the door, expecting another trinket, but he held nothing.
"Hi," he said.
"I just finished a route nearby, and thought I'd stop by. Hope that's okay." She smiled, surprised. "Of course it's okay. You want some lemonade?" They sat on the porch and talked for an hour. Susan shared memories from her time working at the school, funny moments with students, bittersweet stories of graduation, even her fears about growing older alone. Eli listened with the kind of attention most adults no longer offered. Eventually, the topic circled back to the gifts. "You know," Susan said thoughtfully, "I still don't know who's sending those. And maybe I never will." Eli leaned forward. "Do you need to know? Or is it enough that they made you feel something good?" She considered that. "I supposed it's enough. It reminded me I'm still connected, that someone out there sees me." Eli looked down at his hands. "That matters more than people think." The next week, no gift came, nor the week after. Susan missed the small surprises more than she expected. But more than that, she missed Eli's visits. He hadn't stopped by since that afternoon on the porch. After 3 weeks of silence, she dialed the delivery company, only to find out Eli had quit. The absence stung. One afternoon, as she was sweeping the porch, she found a letter wedged under the welcome mat. It was handwritten, the ink slightly smudged. "Dear Ms. Mitchell, I hope you're well. I wanted to say thank you for the conversations, the iced tea, and the way you listened. I needed that more than you knew. Those gifts, they were for me. I saved up for each one. You reminded me of my grandma, kind, thoughtful, a little lonely, and someone who had given a lot to others over the years. I wanted to return a little of that. You helped me believe I could make a difference in someone's day. You reminded me that even when things feel small, they matter. I'm starting school next week. Finally. Studying art like I always wanted. I couldn't have done it without that little boost you gave me just by being you.
Thank you.
Keep being amazing. Eli." Susan sat on the bench with the letter clutched in her hands, her eyes wet. That evening, she placed all the small gifts on a shelf in her living room, the scarf, the mug, the heart keychain, the quote, the little book. And above it all, she framed the letter. In a world that often felt cold and disconnected, a delivery boy's small acts of kindness had reminded her that people still cared. That goodness could arrive unannounced, in a red polo and black cap, with a box in hand and a heart full of intention. She never heard from